Artificial intelligence has become one of the most controversial topics in technology. Some people believe AI will transform software development forever, while others see it as a threat to open-source programming jobs and software quality. That debate has divided developers across the world, including members of the Linux community. But just when the discussion seemed more polarized than ever, Linux creator Linus Torvalds stepped in with a statement that surprised both supporters and critics of AI. His message wasn't about hype, fear, or politics. It was about something much simpler: building better software. For years, Linus Torvalds has been known for focusing on practical engineering rather than following technology trends. Whether discussing programming languages, hardware companies, or new software tools, he has consistently judged technology based on one question: does it actually solve problems? That same mindset now applies to artificial intelligence. While many expected Linux to resist AI entirely, Torvalds has made it clear that the Linux kernel project is not anti-AI. Instead, he believes AI should be treated like any other development tool, as long as it genuinely helps developers write better code. His comments came during an intense discussion on the Linux kernel mailing list. Some developers argued that AI-generated code and AI-assisted reviews should be discouraged because of concerns about quality, reliability, and maintainability. Others believed that AI was becoming too useful to ignore. Rather than avoiding the debate, Torvalds addressed it directly. He stated that Linux is not one of those anti-AI projects, and emphasized that contributors who dislike AI are free to avoid using it themselves, but they should not prevent others from using it responsibly. That statement immediately caught the attention of the technology world because Linux has always been one of the largest and most influential open-source projects ever created. Every decision made by the Linux kernel community affects developers, cloud providers, hardware manufacturers, enterprise companies, and billions of devices worldwide. When Linus Torvalds speaks about the future of software development, people pay attention because Linux powers much of the modern internet. One reason this debate became so intense is that AI has improved dramatically over the past year. Only a short time ago, many developers viewed AI coding assistants as unreliable autocomplete tools that produced inconsistent results. Today, they can explain code, detect bugs, suggest optimizations, generate documentation, and help developers understand unfamiliar projects. While they are still far from perfect, their capabilities have advanced rapidly enough that many professional programmers now use them every day. Torvalds acknowledged this change, noting that AI's usefulness is no longer really in question. That doesn't mean Linux developers are allowing AI to write the kernel unchecked. In fact, Torvalds made it clear that AI is simply another tool. Every code contribution still goes through the same review process, testing standards, and quality checks that have always existed. Whether a patch was written entirely by a human or assisted by AI, maintainers judge it based on technical merit rather than how it was created. This reflects one of the core principles that has guided Linux development for decades. Interestingly, Torvalds also acknowledged that AI creates new problems. Earlier this year, he expressed frustration over large numbers of AI-generated security reports overwhelming Linux maintainers. Multiple researchers were using similar AI tools to report identical issues, creating duplicate bug reports and increasing workloads instead of reducing them. Rather than blaming AI itself, Torvalds argued that the solution is improving how these tools are used instead of pretending they don't exist. This balanced approach may be exactly what the open-source community needs. Much of the public conversation about AI has become extremely polarized. One side claims AI will replace programmers entirely. The other insists that AI has no place in software development. Torvalds rejects both extremes. His position is surprisingly straightforward. AI is neither magic nor evil. It is another engineering tool, and like every other tool, its value depends on how intelligently people use it. The timing of these comments is especially significant because Linux itself is already benefiting from AI-assisted development. Recent security research has shown AI systems identifying bugs that human reviewers overlooked for years. AI-powered analysis tools are helping developers review complex patches, understand enormous codebases, and detect potential vulnerabilities earlier in the development cycle. While human expertise remains essential, AI is increasingly becoming a valuable assistant rather than a replacement. For Linux users, this is actually encouraging news. One of the biggest concerns surrounding AI-generated code is the possibility of introducing hidden bugs. However, the Linux kernel has one of the strictest review processes in the software industry. Every proposed change is examined by experienced maintainers, discussed publicly, tested across different hardware, and reviewed by specialists before becoming part of the kernel. AI does not bypass that process. If anything, it adds another layer of analysis before code reaches production systems. This also reflects how Linux has always evolved. Throughout its history, Linux has embraced technologies that proved useful while rejecting those that failed to deliver meaningful benefits. Git, distributed development, automated testing, continuous integration, advanced compilers, virtualization, containers, and cloud-native technologies all became part of Linux because they improved development. AI is now being evaluated using exactly the same philosophy. The project is not adopting AI because it is fashionable. It is adopting AI where it demonstrably improves software quality. Another reason Torvalds' comments matter is because of the growing importance of AI infrastructure itself. Most modern AI platforms run on Linux servers. From cloud providers training massive language models to startups building machine learning applications, Linux remains the dominant operating system behind artificial intelligence. The future of AI and the future of Linux are becoming increasingly connected. Better Linux development tools ultimately help strengthen the infrastructure supporting much of today's AI revolution. Developers also stand to benefit enormously. Learning a large codebase has traditionally been one of the biggest challenges in software engineering. Linux contains millions of lines of highly optimized code developed over decades. AI assistants can help explain unfamiliar functions, summarize documentation, identify relevant files, and accelerate learning without replacing the developer's own judgment. This could make contributing to Linux easier for new programmers, while allowing experienced maintainers to focus on more complex engineering decisions. Businesses are watching these developments closely as well. Companies building products on Linux want faster development, fewer bugs, and stronger security. AI-assisted code review, automated testing, vulnerability detection, and documentation generation all have the potential to reduce development costs while improving reliability. If implemented carefully, AI could accelerate innovation across the entire Linux ecosystem without sacrificing the quality standards that enterprises depend on. Of course, concerns remain. AI models sometimes generate incorrect code, misunderstand system architecture, or recommend inefficient solutions. They can confidently produce answers that appear convincing, but contain subtle mistakes. Torvalds has never suggested ignoring these limitations. Instead, his position assumes developers remain responsible for understanding every line of code they submit. Human accountability remains central to Linux development, regardless of how powerful AI becomes. Perhaps the most fascinating aspect of this story is how much Torvalds' position reflects the broader philosophy of open source itself. Open source software has never been about rejecting new technology. It has always been about transparency, collaboration, experimentation, and continuous improvement. If AI contributes positively to those goals, it belongs in the toolbox. If it fails to deliver useful results, developers will naturally stop using it. Technology earns its place through results rather than ideology. The debate surrounding AI is unlikely to disappear anytime soon. New coding assistants will become more capable, automated reviews will become more sophisticated, and AI-generated software will continue improving. The Linux community will undoubtedly face new challenges as these tools evolve. But Torvalds has already established the direction he believes Linux should take. Decisions will continue being made according to technical excellence, measurable usefulness, and real-world engineering rather than fear or hype. In many ways, this moment may represent a turning point for open-source software. Instead of asking whether AI should exist in Linux development, the conversation is shifting toward how AI can be used responsibly. That is a far more productive discussion because it recognizes reality rather than resisting it. Artificial intelligence is becoming part of software engineering, just as compilers, automated testing, and version control once transformed programming decades ago. So, what does this mean for the future of Linux? It means Linux is not abandoning its principles. It is applying those principles to a new generation of technology. AI will not replace Linux developers, maintainers, or reviewers. It will simply become another powerful tool that helps them build faster, find bugs earlier, improve security, and maintain one of the world's most important software projects. And if Linus Torvalds is right, the future of open source won't be defined by whether AI is used. It will be defined by how wisely developers choose to use it.